objective butter.
No,
We
they've got more
outnumber
than
them.
45.
We outnumber them. What on earth are our team doing, man? Fucking wasters. Look at where our team are. Look at where they are. Super, you're the only one who can save this right now. If you get in and smash it, Nimi and me are gonna have to literally just get in and like disarm it immediately. Nimi, you need to just get on it. Go, like run. It doesn't even matter. We can't get it. We can't get it.
I got 4 people, 5 people, squad wipe. Thanks.
Help me!
I got 2.
I got it. Fucking got it.
We have defused objective butter.
Jesus H Christ.
Yep.
That was bonkers. We should not have had that.
I had to leave the tank to kill him.
I jumped through fire and still shooting at people whilst disarming it, for God's sake. Oh, Lord.
Enemy coordinates have been sent to our artillery.
No way we should have disarmed that.
Yeah, no way.
There was tons.
9 tickets.
Nice. Jesus. Didn't think we were going to hold that at all. Good job.
Nah, it's...
That was
the tank we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big save there. That was really good. And also the diffusers. We had a couple of good diffusers there. Can't believe the teammates pissed away A though. That was fucking ridiculous.
I almost diffused it. Like, I started diffusing it, and then I thought I saw someone... There was last one.
It's ridiculously
and then it
easy
blew
to
up.
defend that A as well.
Love the medic score.
Yay. Pointless battle pack for me. Oh look, 1, 2, 3. What a fucking shocker that is. Although to be fair, it's not that different on the other team.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to remind they outnumbered us to begin with, which means that some of them either gave up or dropped out halfway through. Hey guys, Luton here, and I'm back to talk about Battlefield 1. Now, I've repeated many times the issues facing not just Battlefield 1, but Battlefield as an ongoing franchise. You guys know I've been doing this for years. Issues such as an overhyped marketing campaign continuously, an overproven DLC season pass approach to extra content, and most of all, a community which by all standards seems to be deteriorating out of control in multiple ways. As we all know, at this point you could speculate that some of this goes hand in hand with the title growing to become a leading global FPS. Now, these are all things that we discuss and know. I do how often see people saying, Luton, you've said this before, but what can we actually do about it? Can we do anything about it? Now, often my answer is just a flat out no. As a producer, what can I realistically do to impact a community as large as Battlefield, as large as it's now become? My channel is not a leading one in the world of Battlefield anymore, if it ever was. So my impact is very limited, and it's not through want of trying for years. I attempted to champion constructive team play, sportsmanship, and hard-fought, interesting games. After a fashion, though, and seemingly in the minority of YouTube producers trying to champion this style of gameplay, I eventually became... I'm pretty apathetic, I guess. I became quite apathetic about the game, which is why I stopped playing the game for a while. I simply gave up trying to have any meaningful impact. Now, DICE and EA didn't seem especially interested in the perspective of improving team play and all this kind of stuff. I talked about it for a long time, and nothing really much happened there. And despite promising a team play initiative back in Battlefield 4, which would have been an ideal testing period to improve things and figure out if there was anything we could do to make it, and would that even work, that was sidelined to provide yet another more base content in the form of a map, more guns. So, in my opinion, a sadly and quite poignant wasted opportunity, and I would love to know who it was at DICE EA who ultimately made that decision. So let's fast forward to right now. Battlefield 1 was originally touted as a World War I game. Wow, such a refreshing concept. Like, everyone was very excited about the thought of this. What was it going to mean? A total change-up? Were they, like, shaking things up? Now, the thought of battling through the mud, the horror of World War I, that seemed such a massive departure for the series, and it had endless possibilities. You know, we were like, wow, is it going to be a complete change in the gunplay, a complete change in objectives and how that plays? Are they really sort of, turning the page, going in a different direction? Connect that concept up with titles which were already released, like things like Verdun, and knowing how well the game modes function to give really interesting team play in that game, this was a really genuinely exciting prospect, because Verdun actually plays really well with its sort of trench warfare battle lines. It's developed very well in terms of game modes. However, Battlefield 1 has been less focused on the dark battles of World War 1, and instead it's aimed actually for a more cinematic journey across a beautifully rendered, colour-filled Europe. Very peaceful almost background. With World War 2 kind of just smashed into it like a square peg in a round hole. So you have this 1-2 hybrid now, which is not really anything, it's just kind of like an alternate reality. The sheer amount of fully automatic weapons and gimmicks in the game essentially extinguished any thought that we were going to get something brave and revolutionary in its mechanics. Quite honestly, myself, I would have settled for a World War II game with, you know, really polished, perfected extensive destruction system instead of what we've got with Battlefield 1. I think, you know, why do do it or don't do it, but just matchmaking. Not a common topic for Battlefield YouTube videos. I say not a common topic, not that it hasn't been a topic, just not a common topic. But basically, the last remaining hope, in my opinion, to salvage the unsalvageable, the modern Battlefield community. Disturbingly, in the past week of playing Battlefield 1 after a long stint of not playing Battlefield, coming back and playing Battlefield to essentially kind of, you know, I had a big break and then come back like, let's see what's up with it. Now, we've had some really enjoyable games, but as I say, disturbingly, the games that I played and people that I play with have observed that on average, at least 50% of both teams on multiple different game modes were scoring anywhere in the region of like a 110 KD or worse. Scoring anything as low as 5 or even 6 times below the top players in score. Now, to be clear, this is not a scientific analysis of any kind, it's just a general observation, but by and large, I think it'd be fair to say it's represented most games we've played since release, and many people speak up to me in corroborating that they experience the same ineptitude among what can only be assumed is actually now a large percentage of the community. Now, this is critically worrying. It means that those players are not only unable to really have any kind of literal impact on the game in terms of eliminating enemy players, it means they also have little to any impact in even supporting team members of that objective. You might sort of think to yourself, well, sometimes, okay, you know, they're not the best at gunplay, but maybe they're still just getting in there. No, they're having no impact on anything. And it's more than likely any kills or score they achieved were actually just a result of being in the right place at the right time. So with those kind of stats, I would honestly suggest the community at this point is getting dangerously close to a complete collapse from a perspective of meaningful gameplay. All you're going to be left with is humans who have bot-like competency, and the players who just farm them over and over, and also people that get in the mix with bullshit tactics like exploiting poorly designed map layouts and zone borders to line-of-sight snipe with tanks. You see this on nearly every game we've played now. And if half your players are basically bots at this point, what the hell is the point in playing and hoping to, you know, really have a true sense of what it is you're doing? Moreover, why should anybody care about anything now, whether it's so-called best weapons, which I've never subscribed to, the concept is fundamentally stupid, or in-depth discussion of stats and patch notes? Why should anybody care about any of that when most of the people you're playing with, they can barely move their characters around, and so getting into the nitty-gritty details of the game, it fucking doesn't matter anymore. Some of EA's own events with celebrities highlighted just how extremely painful this can be, and hilariously, those events perhaps unknowingly showed a really accurate portrayal of what kind of gameplay people could actually expect to experience with Battlefield 1, which is top-end people and then bottom-end people, and nothing in between, which is extremely depressing. There is something that I feel, however, could step towards fixing this. Now, I am by far and away not the first person to talk about this, but that thing is matchmaking. Now, many games utilise a matchmaking or ladder system to improve the quality of games between players. Games like Overwatch, okay, is a really good example. This runs seasons, they correlate the data of players to assign you to an appropriate tier, so you theoretically should be playing against similarly skilled people. Now, Battlefield claims to have matchmaking already, and has done for some time. The problem is, it's fundamentally flawed in various ways. Also, to really make it work well, they'd need to basically redesign the entire system from the ground up. Just tweaks are not going to do it. And are they about to do that? Well, they were unwilling to even run a basic team play initiative in the CTE, so my guess is probably not. Now, to be clear again, I'm no expert on this matchmaking system. I've done some research the past few days, and to the best of my research, I even then couldn't really find a clear or detailed explanation of just how skill matchmaking works, not anything set in stone. Now, fundamentally, Battlefield seems to use a formula that will take into account your SPM, KPM, and your KD, give you a score that's going to be used to matchmake you. And you would assume that this would then try to place you in a server with players of all of a similar skill level. But from everything I was able to find, it actually seems that is not the case. Now, as I say, they're not set in stone, not gospel, but from what I was able to research and discover and read, that seems like it's not the case. And instead, the game places you into a round and then balances that round to ensure that the teams have an equal balanced load of skill. So essentially, let's assume 1 is the lowest skill and 3 is the highest. It will try to fill that serve with, say, 2 rank 3 people, 3 rank 2, 5 rank 1 per side. So you have an equal balance of skill on each side. This would explain why you very, very often see these games that I described earlier, where seemingly only 50% of a team are having any real impact on the game, and also that higher 50% of rounds are dominating the lower players. And, because basically what it's done is it's divided up so that there's equal skill. It's just that 50% of those players have really, really low skill, and 50% of those players have quite high skill. So yes, it's balanced, but it's balanced in a really stupid way. And it must really suck to be those lower 50% of players. I personally can't imagine that it's much fun to play a game where it matches you into rounds where you're just continually screwed into the ground over and over and over again. I can't imagine that that's great fun. This style of matchmaking is not only frustrating for players at the top and the bottom, but however you look at it, it also creates a horrific mess of a team. Assuming the game manages to balance the teams, it seems not conducive to a good experience. But worse than that, because of how people join rounds, it also means you end up in a strange mix-up that I've found no good explanation for, where I assume some rounds have players who have chosen to join in, others are matched in, and then what happens if people switch teams, creating imbalance? And we all know what that results in, the now surely legendary Battlefield steamrolls that also make up a significant proportion of games you play in, where one team is terribly outskilled and could do almost nothing to resist the force that comes against them. And the way that steamrolls occur is because of this flawed matchmaking system, because what happens is it throws a huge mix of player skills into each round, balances them, but then as people leave and people switch teams, one team gradually becomes stacked. Now the auto balance should in theory chuck people backwards and forwards to balance it back out again, and sometimes that happens, but it just doesn't happen effectively, and that's why time and time again, and there's nothing to really stop people switching back anyway if there's space to do so. So that's why you just end up with these rounds where they just go over and over and over, rolling over each person. Now this all comes back to the fact that matchmaking, as I say, does not really make matches. It sort of has some vague effect on placing people. The only way you could genuinely improve things is, like I say, instead of running a system as we currently do, where people can choose their own servers to play on, would be to scrap that entire system. Now calm down, because before you scream, "Oh my god, Luton, no, 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 we must be able to play the games we want," calm the fuck down, alright? Have a seat. I'm not suggesting that they scrap server browsing completely. What I'm suggesting is that in order to actually rank up, you playing games which are not assigned by a browser, by you just going in and choosing which games and what sort of thing you want to play with, and that they have a detailed and balanced matchmaking system similar to something like Overwatch for the overall rankings. Also, that it would have seasons for players based on the tiers. This could actually be really exciting, giving people unique items, giving them a sense, a feeling of having something to fight towards, to battle towards, to actually win towards, instead of essentially just unlocking guns and then nothing. And then if they actually had this tiering system, they could do away with this Easter egg nonsense, which is fucking pointless and meaningless. Like, as far as I'm concerned, just give people the crap if you're going to do that anyway. Get rid of that and actually have something for people to actually battle towards, to achieve, to unlock, and something that they can say, look, I got this by playing well. I got this by being better than other people. I got this. I have a sense of achievement, and you can get there too if you try better and try to improve yourself. There is no incentive in the game to better yourself, to improve yourself beyond your own personal sort of feeling or whatever. And a lot of the time people don't care about how they feel about themselves. They feel much more like, hey, I want to show other people how I'm good, right? So by putting in that kind of tiering system, by giving people achievable rewards, and instead of just saying like, hey, you dance around 3 times and then hold your foot and then you spin on the spot and then you unlock something, instead of having nonsense like that, instead of having like people running around finding little bits and pieces and going, oh, we found a number 6, I wonder what that means, instead of having that crap, just actually have something which would suit the game a lot better. What fucking game are we playing here? Have something which suits the game a lot better, something where you actually rewarded for doing well in the game. Such an insane concept that is. Let's have that so that people actually have a sense of stepping up, of actually fighting better, doing better, and then on top of that we get the benefit of balancing all the players out so everybody gets better games. Now on top of this you could still have private servers and server browsing, but those servers would be unranked, or they would grant you a very lower tier of XPing up and only be there for people to play specifically tailored rounds or just to mess about in, right? So keep one thing separate from the other. Theoretically, kills 2 birds in 1 stone, improving overall gameplay quality and separating the wheat from the chaff in terms of players who actually fight for the game and the objective, and the other players that at this point I could give a toss about whatever it is they're doing, launching vehicles, spawning other people into funny videos or whatever the fuck they do. So there are still yet more problems though if we wanted to try and implement any kind of system like this. Now for starters, matching amounts of players for Battlefield is different to something like Overwatch. So for one, in Overwatch you're only trying to match 6 people. Whereas in Battlefield, it's anything from like 12 to 20 to 32. So assuming there are enough people of a similar skill at any given time in your global server territory, it's going to be a challenge there. It's already not great. So right now as it stands, when you're trying to matchmake a game late in the evening in the EU, or you if it's late at night, you'll usually switch to like North America because you cannot find the players late at night. So the point is, it's going to be hard to matchmake if there aren't people there to matchmake with, and so you kind of automatically have to change it up a little bit. Then you also have the issue of joining in a party. If your friends are out of tier with you, then they're not necessarily going to be able to play, or they get then sort of matched in and dragged down to lower games. However you look at it, that's going to create an imbalance again. So how do you get around that one? Well, I guess you maybe have to compromise somewhere in there and just accept that some improvement is better than no improvement. And then when you're talking about joining parties with friends, you obviously want to keep those people together. So what about auto balance while we're at it? Is that going to still be a thing then, or do we go a different route? I think that instead of auto-balancing for players who just give up, for example, you should go down a different path. So that takes us to another problem, which is that while score and kills are all well and good, and I assume it must take your wins somewhat into account, there is no actual penalty right now for players who just rage or give up halfway through a round and quit out. And that's why you have so much of that happening all the time, because there is no penalty there. They just think, oh fuck this, I'm out, right? And that's why you have auto balance, to try and prevent games being broken by all the arseholes who leave because they aren't having a good time, which by the way, they would be if the bloody matchmaking worked. So in theory, if you had a better system, less people should be leaving rounds, meaning auto balance is less required, which means you don't get broken up by by joining with friends all the time. On top of that, they should use a system of penalising players who quit out. This should be something that they put in place right now, but it would be all the more important with a revised matchmaking system. Now again, I'm going to use Overwatch as an example. It calculates your round completion over the previous 20 games, and if that falls below a threshold for full completion, you get an on-screen warning. Now if players continue leaving games after that, they're going to incur an XP penalty, and that is removed when they go above the completion threshold once again. You could also place this on people who spend too long in a customization screen, or people who just go inactive. If you want to be more aggressive, think of something like what WoW used to have in its PvP games, where if you quit out, it would actively prevent you from rejoining games for a 15-minute period. And also just to note, that would not apply if you got kicked out by the game for connectivity or whatever. It's only if you actively went into your system and quit out. So a skill-based matchmaking and tier system, ways to improve the skill of your whole team, thereby creating more engaging, challenging battles, penalising people who actively hinder or quit out of your games, and allowing a fairer, more balanced game for lower skill players. On top of it all, still enabling private servers for people to play games they want to play, albeit as I said unranked or with lower XP levels with specific tailored parameters, which would then otherwise potentially skew those skill-based algorithms. It's hard to see a reason why they wouldn't do this if they genuinely cared about improving gameplay quality for players, to get people back to engaging hard-fought rounds versus other people of similar skill levels, and improving the Battlefield experience for all. Do I think any of this is going to happen? Nope. Because money. Battlefield is now about money, and only money. All games are about money. But when you see a focus on style over substance, it usually means it's leaning towards just selling a product than it is about the end user experience. And let's be clear, this is not an isolated opinion to me. This is an opinion of many, many people, many of you who have supported this point of view, either through DMs to me, in the comments to me. How can you be so certain of this looting? Well, because it is clear for anybody who's got their head screwed on to see. That's why when any game has such a disconnect between actual user experience and marketing gloss, then it means they no longer care about the user experience, whatever they say. What is marketed to you and then the experience that you should have should be one and the same, okay? What they show you is what it should be. So if you don't have that, what are you left with? Well, what you're left with is bullshit mobile applications like Clash of Clans, Mobile Warfare, whose adverts, by the way, I think should be banned for misrepresenting products. And that's kind of where we're getting towards. I would potentially argue that even something like CTE is a token gesture. Now get off my back, CTE fans. Stop kidding yourselves, alright? Read between the lines. What do I base that on? The Team Play Initiative never happened. And while we're at it, the fact that they have repeatedly failed to carry barely anything learned and implemented through CTE to subsequent titles, if it was a genuine system to improve the products that they make, they would take that knowledge and they would put it into the next game from day one. Day one. Not like, oh, by the way, sorry, we didn't do any of that, so we're going to make another CTE and you can go through it all again. From day one. You know this stuff. What's going on? Now, maybe I'm being too cynical, but honestly, it's not my place to prove that to be wrong. It's EA DICE. Please prove me to be wrong. I think we are nearly at a point of calling it the new Call of Duty, and I said that Battlefield 1 would be the last stand for Battlefield for me, and so far it's supremely living up to that. Rest in peace, Battlefield. So will I continue to play Battlefield despite this? Probably yes. And why? Because I seem to be a bit of a masochist when it comes to Battlefield. I don't know why. Something about it makes me want to not give up on it. Perhaps I've got Stockholm Syndrome. Boom, boom. Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching.
We have armed objective apples.
I'm arming B.
They're coming in. Don't sit on top of me, you fucking prick.
We have armed objective butter.
Oh fuck, someone's upstairs with this arming B. Prone.
It's covered.
The enemy has defused objective butter.
You got it.
Nicely done. Go, 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 go.
We have taken out objective butter.
Fucking shotgun arsehole got me on
There's a shotgun out the top
Hey.
of the stair of B.
medic. No. Okay. Light tank.
We'll have to come close.
And the grenades on him.
Yes.
I wish we'd just get one anti-tank grenade into that guy. He might have gone down. I was literally about 5 meters in front of him. I could have just fucking smashed it in at the end. I was about to say they were bloody handicapped by those three guys, like 215, 519, 511, but we did have 2 guys on ours as well, but not bad as well. That guy Macero, I don't know what he was doing, but to go 30 and 0. Tank. No, we didn't even have a tank. So what was he doing? Sitting back.